this Zoom. But so do you know how are we going to be able to see who's joining, or it's just going to be like
so if you open the participants tab, you'll be able to see all of the names. Everybody who is joining is muted, and then once the meeting officially starts, I'm going to ask everybody to just ask their questions via the chat function.
Okay.
That way everybody's not talking over each other. And then once that happens, we should be in good shape. I have the computer, the WineStay logo is where I'm going to do screen shares. So we've got those, and I've got the Chateau de Borde Blanc and the Sadran, like the sheets that you sent me. So we'll put those up when we're talking about those wines.
Okay, great.
And I figured that was the easiest. People might be able to pop in via video, so we'll see their face pop up on the participants side of things. But I've spotlighted the 5 of us.
Okay.
And that way, like, it will always be the 5 that people kind of are able to tune into. And since we are all unmuted, we will be the ones that people, if they do the speaker mode, if you've done like Zoom with where it automatically highlights the person who's like the loudest kind of, the four of us should be fine. And then I can also, I started recording so that way we can share it on our website. The YouTube or something kind of like that. So
very good. And for the map, I was I don't know if you can point. I can see your little mouse, but I was like intending to show where in the Entre deux Mers. So if you go down, so first, well, yeah, this away. Because the Chateau de Borde, and Chateau Sadran are. I can't actually show anything on your shared screen, right?
You might be able to annotate.
There's just to show and point where the wineries are.
Let's see. So can you click? I enabled annotation, so you might be able to like click. So like on my iPad, I can click and then I can like draw.
Okay. I don't know how I can do that. Oh yeah, no, this is your screen, so I can't.
Yes.
Because otherwise, maybe I can just show you and you'll point to be like, well, maybe you can see. We can't see anything. So I can't go any closer because otherwise it disappears. So Chateau de Borde is on top, next to the river. If you can point at the same time. A little, yes, that around there. So that's pretty much below the river. That's where well, being approximate. Maybe Roland is going to say I'm wrong, but just in case you can correct. And then if you go around there, and then Sadran, if you go south, just like a straight line, that's pretty much where Sadran is also. Okay, so that's just
across the river, correct?
On the other side, there's Barsac underneath, and it's on top, but on the other side of the river, in the Entre deux Mers.
Yeah, it's right next to Cadillac. I mean, to what was the name? There's a street, Barsac.
Barsac, yeah. So it's Barsac is on the other side, and this one is just on north of the
opposite of Barsac and Graves, right?
Yeah. But then, I mean, there are names like Sadran is on the hill of Villeneuve de Rion, but those names won't, like, don't mean anything for anyone. Even I didn't know where Villeneuve de Rion was until Christian mentioned it, so maybe it's not worth mentioning that to anyone, but just, point where it is. Kind of, I guess, just relocating that north of Chateau de Borde, sorry, there's this big Saint-Emilion appellation, Pomerol and everything, and then south it's the Sauternes. Just to kind of give them an idea of the environment.
Right.
Cool. And then, so we start at 5:30 sharp.
Yes.
We
we might give people a few like 3 or 4 minutes to kind of finish joining. And that way, you know, while we do kind of introductions, and then I think we should be in good shape. And I've got a couple people that might just pop in for a little bit just to kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I believe a couple of my coworkers and their spouses are going to join us, plus hopefully other folks. So it looks like we already have 2, which is great. Hope they're enjoying the show so far.
Yeah. Oh, there's Celine. Celine, she's working for us.
Oh,
She's
great.
in charge of the UK. So hi, Celine. Thanks for joining. And just one question before there's too many people. What's on the back label of Chateau de Borde in terms of blend? To make sure everything is fine. Maybe it's
What's on the back label of Chateau de Borde?
just the blend. What's the blend saying?
Yeah, it says 80% Sauvignon, 20% Semillon.
Oh, okay, great. 80% Sauvignon Blanc and 20% Sauvignon Blanc, right? Not Cabernet Sauvignon.
You say
Yes.
Sauvignon and Semillon. No,
Okay, good.
No Blanc.
Yes, no, that's fine. Perfect. All good. We were just worried that the blend was not maybe accurate, but it's fine.
You cannot see it. Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't work though. You can't show
Wow.
anything.
That's pretty wild.
So how was your days over in France today?
It was warm. Roland was just saying how warm it is in his living room at the moment, and the Sadran is kind of warming up also. So it's warm summer. Yeah.
Right.
It's very, very unusual temperatures for this time of the year. So it's both good and bad.
Yeah.
It's always better good weather, of course. But for the harvest, we have a bit too much heat right now. So it's affecting the maturation, and some of the berries are starting to dry out a little bit. So that's not very good. But
can you turn the volume up for I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you turn the volume up for Roland? I really can't hear much of what he's saying.
Maybe if you put the mic closer to your mouth, Roland, if it's.
Well, I definitely have a problem because
Yeah.
we've already tested
better.
this with Alison, and I had to put my earpiece on because otherwise it didn't work with the computer mic. So
Okay.
if
No,
I
it's fine.
hold it like that, it's okay?
You'll have to stay forever like this until we end
Yeah,
it.
it's a little bit low. Is there any way you can control that, Zach?
What's that?
Control his volume?
No, it's all about his microphone.
How about, what kind of equipment are you using, Roland? Is it a desktop, a laptop, or an iPad?
I'm using a portable computer.
Yeah. It's not an Apple, no?
No,
it's his headset. So when he's holding the mic like he is right now, it's fine. He sounds clear to me.
Yeah, it sounds clear. It's just that it's really quiet, and you know.
But
I'm a little bit deaf. I'm old, so you know, you people.
Okay,
people,
so but what about the others? For Zach, is it? That's perfect.
That's perfect.
And if I put it in my mouth, is it better?
Yeah. Well, as long as he doesn't come out the other side. But that's a lot better. That's definitely a lot better.
Okay.
So you, Miguel, you knew Roland's dad better than you knew Roland, right?
Yeah, I think Roland was in charge back in those days of Asia market, Japan or something like that, Malaysia.
Yeah. That's right.
And he sat in the back of the Chateau de Borde over there. So there was Marcel, his brother, right? I don't remember his name.
Christian.
And then the export manager, as I told you, he learned English from the Beatles records.
Oh, right.
But, you know, that's better than me because I had zero. I still have zero French knowledge, you know, being typical American.
You didn't listen to Johnny Hallyday and those big artists we have?
Was that?
You don't know. I guess it's not going to be international. Everyone knows about Céline Dion, but I guess you would not be listening to Céline Dion to learn French anyway.
No, I just like Jimi Hendrix and things like that.
Oh yeah, you can't learn French with that.
I used to be in bands and touring and all that good stuff when I was young.
Okay.
Let me get my headphones because I really my hearing problem is really. I'll be right back.
And so how's the set looking at the moment? So we see behind you, Zach, the nice setup that you made, and
I think
is it
doing well? We have 7 folks who picked up 6-packs so far, so hopefully I know that a couple of the folks that have joined are those lucky people to get some really good wine. And we sold quite a few of the Chateau Clémence and the Sadran for today. The Clémence is doing very well. I was kind of shocked. I was expecting the Chateau Borde to do a little better off the start, but I'm happy that it's the Clémence that's kind of winning the day, since that's one of the ones we got the most of. But yeah, it's done well. I need to make it pretty again tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah, the Clémence is really the wine. Even in France it has another name, but it's the same wine, which is the big hit. Okay. I guess we'll talk about this one on September 3rd. No, it's mid-October.
Yeah, that's
one minute. 1 minute. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
You're very loud.
Yes. You don't have to hold it.
No, I don't have to hold it.
No.
Awesome. Well, 1 minute.
Okay. So yeah, it's going to be Borde Blanc and Sadran today, end of September, Coursieux-Coutelin, the Saint-Estèphe, and the Rosé, which I kept mixing the Blanc and the Rosé today. Yeah. Then Cuvée Clémence will be at the end, which is nice. It's really the most, I would say, like typical but not typical at the same time. It's a very unusual type of white from Bordeaux, which is maybe why it has so much success. And it's the magic. Usually I say that I don't know if you know the comic book Astérix Obélix. Maybe not. It's really French. Actually, it's Belgian. But
it is French or Belgian.
Yeah, it's Belgian. And so I usually compare Christian to Panoramix, the grid. So only Roland will know this, I guess, quote, because he made this little secret potion, and it has so much. I don't know if it makes you very strong as the magic potion is supposed to make you. It's a lot of success in France. So I'm happy it's the same in the US. It means that our tastes are pretty much the same.
Oh wow, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5:30. Let's get started. We have about 10-15 people. Awesome. Right. 13.
Well, thank you all for joining me. This is our first, hopefully, virtual wine stay. And every 2 weeks from hopefully here on out, we'll be doing something similar where I have the importer, so Miguel, and then some winery representatives, Alison tonight, and then the owner and winemaker, Roland. Every week is going to be different for the next month or so. Today is just kind of a start. My name is Zach. I'm the wine and beer coordinator at the Durham Co-op. My pronouns are he and him. That's something that we do at the co-op to just make everybody feel inclusive, is when we introduce ourselves, just say who you are and how you would like to be identified. It just kind of helps everybody right off the bat. So I guess I'll pass it over to Miguel to introduce himself and the two of you as well, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. My name is Miguel de la Mata. I own Alliance Wines. Been around since 1988. And we specialize in working with small producers and family operations that are really authentic, traditional. And Roland here and Quancard was among my first imports back in 1993. I was just commenting to him that he didn't have a single white hair, neither did I at that point. So I began dealing with his father and his uncle back in those days. And here we are today. We found that their wines meet our needs for authenticity. They're very traditional in the style of Bordeaux. They don't make any sacrifices or anything to, make market share increases and things like that. And that's one thing that we love about all our wines, including those from Roland family, Quancard family, is that authenticity. When I bring a Bordeaux, I want it to taste like Bordeaux. And that kind of philosophy is been going on for a little bit over 3 decades and served as well. And for me, it's an honor to be able to import the wines from such a distinguished and established family from Bordeaux, such as the Quancard family. They never disappoint. They have some tremendous wines, and they are excellent values, is what we found, truly representative of the region. A lot of what they call the terroir in France. Okay. And here I'm going to hand it over to Monsieur Roland to tell us a little bit about his operation and so on.
Hello, so my name is Roland Quancard. I'm the CEO of Cheval Quancard, which is our family company. The company was established in 1844. So I'm the 6th generation of the family working and managing this company. We are both what we call négociants in Bordeaux, so wine merchants, but also we own some vineyards. And today we are going to taste a white Chateau de Borde, which is one of our brands. So that's more our négociant part of the business. And we're going to taste Chateau de Sadran, which is one of our vineyards, but we'll tell you more a bit later. But so as far as our company is concerned, we concentrate on Bordeaux wines. 95% of our sales are Bordeaux wines. We sell a few other French wines for some markets which need to have a slightly larger selection. But basically, it's Bordeaux, which is our specialty. And Miguel talked very nicely about our company and about our wines and about the authenticity. And that's what we try to do, to have wines which represent Bordeaux in its diversity. And, it's a great pleasure for me to be with you tonight. I haven't done this very often, so it's a kind of a first. So I hope everything is going to go well. And I hope you enjoy the tasting and the presentation. So maybe Alison can tell a little bit more about how she sees things and what she does in our company.
Yep. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Again, same first time for me also. So I hope it will be an interesting moment for everyone on the good side. So my name is Alison, and I joined Cheval Quancard actually a bit more than 2 years ago. So it's a younger history. I always worked in the wine industry, although I initially did some studies in the political sciences, which I think it was a good choice to actually go to the wine business instead of going to politics. So I'm quite happy about this choice. So I started working with Cheval Quancard, initially covering the US and Canada, and then I took over also the UK and just this year, South America. So my main market being the US. I really like working with Americans. Don't be afraid. French people love Americans. We like you very much. So it's been an honor to work with this company and promoting the wines with a rich portfolio. Then you'll be able to see just a tiny bit of what we do if you go through the tastings that we will have at end of September and mid-October also. So it really covers the entire region. I like the company for the wines they make because they're very approachable, both because they're it's not a huge budget. Bordeaux wines are not all hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It's really affordable, and you'll be able to see it at the Durham Court Market, by the way. It's really approachable wines, both for the money and tasting them, and you will see that they're really nice for anyone who's not a wine expert. It's just an everyday good wine. It could be a good bottle to share with friends at dinners, and it's just like a no-brainer type of product. So I think it would be interesting to eventually have a little overview of where is Bordeaux precisely and what the vineyards are made of. I don't want to be too go in too many details because it's not supposed to be like a lesson or educational, I mean, too far on the educational part. It's more about drinking and enjoying what we have in our glasses, but just to kind of locate what we will be doing since you can't travel. Hope we'll be able to travel together through this virtual tasting and this map. So this, what you can see at the moment, if you go up, Zach, please, just to see the other one. Well, as you can see, Bordeaux is in France, in the southwest. So we're right next to the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know if you, Roland, you want to take over about the 45th parallel. That's something I'm maybe not very accurate about. Just the influence on the vineyards and how the weather is what it is in Bordeaux and how it helps the vineyards to grow.
Okay. Next slide, Zach.
There.
I think Roland is going to unmute.
Yeah, there we
Here
are.
we go. That should be better. Sorry, I deactivated my microphone. So yes, on this map, you can see this red line, which is more or less in the middle of the page, and which says to the right-hand side, 45th parallel. And as you can see, this parallel goes, of course, across the world, different countries. And we say that all the vineyards which are on the 45th parallel are the vineyards which produce the best quality, because the weather conditions are very good for growing vines. And as you can see, you have Bordeaux on this parallel and a few other European vineyards. You also have California. And this means that you have mild weather conditions with enough heat, but not too much, except for now, because we really have very exceptional weather conditions now with very high temperatures. You have humidity, again, enough, but not too much. And so this is the perfect balance between temperature, humidity. The winters are not too cold. The summers are not too hot. We have good rain, but not too much. So that's supposed to be the best conditions to grow vines and produce good quality wines.
I was going to comment that the one thing that struck me as interesting every time I've been to Bordeaux, a lot of people do not realize the similarities between the Aquitaine, the Bordeaux area, and North Carolina are striking. When you get down to the area around Benson, and you have that sandy soils with the quartz stones, it reminds me of the West Bank of Bordeaux. Yeah, and the climate is pretty much the same in late August with that humidity that comes from the Atlantic there. The flow of winds here bring a lot of humidity in August and in September, just as it does in Bordeaux. Interesting that winemakers here in North Carolina, they all go to the mountains when they have probably some of the best potential down by Benson, you know. But anyway, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No worries. So this is the Bordeaux wine growing area. So just to make it simple, we in Bordeaux have two main banks. So you have the left bank, which is, so you see the Gironde estuary which splits into two rivers. So anything on the left side of that river is the left bank. So where you see northwest, the purple area is the Médoc. So typically this is where you find wines that have mostly Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, and then sometimes other grapes like Petit Verdot or Malbec. So those wines are supposed to be the ones that have a bit more tannins, a bit more structure, could age longer, and just a bigger wines like the Saint-Estèphe you may have tried already, that is at the Durham Cup Market. And then when you go on the right bank, so the pink, blue area, and actually we could actually include also the Entre-deux-Mers, so the green part, which is where you find wines with more Merlot. So Merlot, all the wines in Bordeaux are blends, just to make it clear. I mean, 99% of them are blends. And then, so it's mostly on the right bank, Merlot and Cab, and then left bank, Cabernet and Merlot. So just why Merlot there and not on the other, I mean, sorry, I keep being English, it's late. It's 11:30 in France. Bear with me. So the terroir is very important in Bordeaux, which is why we go with AOCs. We don't really show the blend or the grape on the front label like you would see, for example, in the US, because having a Cabernet Sauvignon from Bordeaux or from Napa is not at all the same style. So Merlot really likes to have a fresh and soft soil. This is what you find on the right bank because it's mostly clay and limestone. So the clay keeps this softness, and the limestone helps draining. Well, it's actually the other side. Clay drains, and the limestone helps keeping the freshness. And on the left bank, it's better for Cabernet Sauvignon just because the soil same is a bit more beneficial to this grape. So the two wines we're going to drink are actually from the right bank. So if you remember correctly, for the red, it will be mostly Merlot and Cabernet Sauvignon. And then for the white, of course, not the same grapes, white grapes, so mostly Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. We will go through that together, I guess now, if we want to have a drink, maybe.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Okay. So I hope everyone has some wine. Some of them, I know Céline may have not some wine with her, but anyways, she can imagine. Doesn't have the wine and lives in North Carolina. I hope that you will be interesting in good time. So if Roland, you want to give a little explanation on how Chateau de Borde was born and
Yep. Okay, so Alison was explaining to you about the Bordeaux map. So if you remember this property, Chateau de Borde, I'm going to tell you more about the Chateau de Borde itself, but initially it comes from a vineyard which is called Chateau de Borde, which is at the top of the Entre-deux-Mers region. And it's a small vineyard of 10 hectares, which has been in my family since 1948. Before we bought this place, it was horse farm. I'm never sure about the way you say that. We say in French, un haras. So Alison, I don't know if you have a better translation, a place where you raise horses. And the owner of the place kept coming to my grandfather and trying to convince him to buy this property. My grandfather wasn't really interested. And in the end, he said, okay, fine, I'm going to buy it. So it's 10 hectares, so it's not very big. And we've transformed this horse farming place into a vineyard. So this was in 1948 that we bought it. And we sold the wines from Chateau de Borde. In the mid-70s, the production wasn't sufficient and we could not expand the vineyard. So what we've decided to do is to make a vinification center on the property where we vinify the grapes from the estate itself and grapes we bought from a number of neighboring vineyards. But because some of the grapes were not coming from the estate itself, we couldn't call it Chateau de Borde anymore. And we had to call it, well, we had to create a brand. And this is how we've called it Chateau de Borde, Chez in French, meaning cellar in English. So the place where you produce, where you vinify the wine. So this is to tell you about the location, where it comes from originally, and why this brand Chateau de Borde, because in those days we had to make it into a brand because some of the grapes were not coming from the estate. Today, we've decided to come back to producing wines, to producing Chateau de Borde, so only wines from the estate itself, but we've kept the brand because it's been quite successful over the years. So we have Chateau de Borde, and under this label, only the wines produced on the estate, and Chateau de Borde which has become one of the leading brands of our company, which we sell as Bordeaux Red, Bordeaux White, and Bordeaux Rosé. And it's the classic Bordeaux style, classic Bordeaux blends. So for today, we're going to try the Chateau de Borde White. And Alison, who's talking about the product? Is it Alison? Is it?
We can all talk about it. I think to what Miguel said earlier about the typicity of these wines, like they really represent what Bordeaux is, as far as this is what you think of when you think of white Bordeaux. As far as the nose and the aromatics, the crispness and the acidity. I really liked all 6 of these wines, which worked out that Cheval Quancard had all 6 great wines for us to choose up in New Jersey a couple months ago now. So as far as tasting, I think everybody typically take your glass, swirl it around, smell it, taste it, and then if Alison or Miguel or myself want to talk about what we taste, I think that's great. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to use the chat function, and then we'll either answer them if they're applicable, or we can circle around at the end and answer all that kind of stuff. So cheers.
Cheers, santé.
Salud, salud.
So the advice of the winemaker is that you really have to have it chilled. So usually it's I have Celsius, but so it should be chilled around 40 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. I did that conversion. So it really needs to be very fresh. And just a quick info on the vineyard and the harvest, because we actually finished harvesting the whites for the 2020 vintage. So for the Chateau de Borde, we actually finished harvesting the Semillon, I think it was end of last week. He went there.
Yeah.
And so for this one, the Sauvignon Blanc is always picked under ripeness, just because it brings this crispness and those floral aromas that you may find. There's just this acidity that it's just a very fresh, nice, crisp wine to drink. So this year, maybe the issue at the moment, although it's too soon to say how the juice will be, because we just picked the grapes. Because like Roland said, there was just a very hot summer and very warm August. So we were lucky to have different wine growers that we work with that had different issues with their grapes. So we were able to pick the ones that were suitable to go in the wine. But at the moment, it's just, difficult vintage, difficult harvest, and a lot of worries, because even like Miguel said, Bordeaux is very humid, so there's always this anxiety of diseases and stuff that happen to the grapes that's not always nice after in the glass. But the good thing about this one is that the 2019 vintage was certified sustainable. So it's, in French we say HVE, which is high environmental value. It's not something that is very well known, I think, in the US. But we really limit the use of pesticides, of any glyphosate, this stuff that used whatever, it's scientific, but it's a good wine. It's good stuff in it. It's nice, easy to drink, so enjoy.
One thing I wanted to say also about this wine is that initially the blend for Chateau de Borde was a majority of Semillon, usually about 80% Semillon and 20% Sauvignon. But in the course of years, because the fashion today is more Sauvignon, we've changed it gradually, so that nowadays it's exactly the opposite of what it was originally, and it's 80% Sauvignon and 20% Semillon.
And it's not time for dinner in the US yet, although I know you eat very early compared to French, but not compared to Spanish, because you eat at 2 a.m. But so if you want to pair this wine with some food, that was also the recommendation of the winemaker. So those are great with oysters and shellfish, but if you want to go on the easy side, it's actually very nice with fish, with a white sauce. Better a fish with sauce than like a grilled or cooked in the oven fish, but it's just yeah, something that pairs well with seafood mostly. I mean, with anything in particular, but like even goat cheese or things like that. It's as you can see, a very easy wine to drink.
And what I like about this wine, if I might interrupt, it is its purity. I mean, when you smell it, when you take the aroma in, it's unquestionably a Sauvignon, you know. And this is a really well Sauvignon Blanc because well made because of the grape harvesting conditions. What I can tell from my experience is that there are 3 levels of harvesting: green harvesting, late harvesting, and normal harvesting. When Sauvignon Blanc, you do early harvesting, which is usually stuff that, you know, is made for very inexpensive wine. Then you get a lot of the pyrene, the cat pee, okay? And that's green harvested.
Oh, yeah,
and
the
that's,
cat pee.
yeah, you ever smell Sauvignon Blanc that it smells sort of like, you know, the liter box? That's what happens. Somebody, the pyrene level is too high in the grape. It hasn't fully matured, but they green harvest because they have to get it to production quick and they have to make so many millions of gallons. The other extreme is when they let it hang too long and you have something called monoterpenes produced, and you get this oily, greasy aroma, almost like a chainsaw grease to it, a little bit diesely. And that they just let it hang too long, and that really doesn't benefit. So something like this, the Chateau de Borde, you don't get either. That's perfect harvesting at the perfect sugar level with the perfect aromatics, and it's, you know, it's spot on for what is Sauvignon Blanc. I mean, it's a strong Sauvignon Blanc. It's not a wimpy Chilean. I don't mean to put down anybody. I'm sorry, but it's not a wimpy Sauvignon Blanc. This one has flavor. This one has character. You know, the backbone of Semillon brings it out and provides the support throughout the finish to draw those flavors through it, okay? And something like this, something paired with something nice, it will even go well with something you grill. Fish that is grilled, like a salmon, shrimp, even shrimp. If anything you put a lemon on that you grill or steam and you squeeze a lemon on, some salads with some goat cheese will pair very well. Things like that. I mean, you can be creative as you can. There's no real law about wine.
I would actually like to ask Molly how it went with the Indian food.
Ah.
Is it a thumbs up? Here, let me unmute you.
I mean, the balance in the palate, you get all this flavor coming through.
Well, we're still waiting on the Indian food to arrive, so we're just tasting it by itself right now. But I am getting it's gonna be, you know, fish, like a fish masala. We'll see.
So you can let me know when the next time I see you at the co-op.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Nice.
But it's a very good wine to have just by itself as an aperitif. So it's a perfect time to have it now. Not for us because it's a bit late. I tend to avoid drinking at this time of the night, but for you, it's perfect time for the aperitif. So cheers.
Cheers. Today we're switching the herbal tea with the Bordeaux wine, which is nice.
It's delicious. I mean, it's got weight in the palate. Again, it's not a wimpy Sauvignon Blanc. It's got weight, it's got body, it's got texture. Minerality is really good. You can taste the soil, a little bit, the sandy soil, the stone. I mean, it's just a pleasure to drink something like this.
Yeah, it's very well balanced because you get this acidity, the citrusy side, but it's really it's round and has a long finish. It's nice. It's not. There's no cat pee, like you said, which can be a little disturbing with Bordeaux wines.
You're gonna make me regret I said that.
Like the typical thing people say about Bordeaux wines.
Yeah, a lot of worse things about wine. Well, I mean, but it's just the purity. I mean, it's not trying to be pretentious or be something that it's not. It's a great everyday Sauvignon Blanc, extremely well made, very rewarding. And, you know, it will pair, like I said, any shellfish. Even if you had like a chicken with white pepper and garlic that you even throw in the grill or you pan-sear with some sunflower seed or something like that, this will pair very nicely. That type of dish. It doesn't need to be just light stuff. It's got some weight to it for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll even, as we get colder and into the fall here, it'll even stand up still as you're, you know, hanging out outside and that kind of stuff.
Let me ask you a question out of the blue. How cold do you drink white wines in France?
I won't be able to say the Fahrenheit. I can do the conversion though.
Well, tell me centigrade.
So
it's usually about 8 to 10.
8 to 10, yeah.
Yeah.
And this one should be actually a little chiller than 8-10.
Yeah. Here in the US is very low temperature. It's almost beer temperature. And they tend to miss a lot of the nuance and the beauty and the weight of the wine because it's so cold. I mean, you cannot. And again, the summers here are hideous, but it's something that I really never tasted ice cold white wine until I came to the US. The only thing you had ice cold was champagne. You know, it's like it was so sparkling, but regular white wine is something that is rather unique, at least to the US.
Yeah.
But you're right. When the white wine, whichever it is too cold, then you're missing some of the aromas. You're missing part of the taste. And this is why when we do our tastings, when we do our blends, for example, we always taste wines at room temperature, whether it's red or white, because that's the best way to get most of the aromas. So that's not the nicest way to drink it, but from a technical point of view, if you want to get the maximum, it's room temperature.
Okay. Let me ask you, I mean, you mentioned that you changed the blend from mostly Semillon to mostly Sauvignon Blanc. How long ago was that?
Well, it's been done gradually over the years, but I would say that's in the last 10 years or so, because, well, first Sauvignon has become very fashionable all around the world. Not many people know that, in fact, Sauvignon, white Sauvignon originates from Bordeaux. There's a bit of argument between Bordeaux and the Loire. Which
right.
Bordeaux, but anyway, it's from France, so it's a grape variety which is spread all over the world. But the origin is definitely French, and we believe it is Bordeaux. So it's one of the typical varieties of Bordeaux, and it's got more oomph than the Semillon. Semillon gives backbone, has a good aging potential. Semillon is the grape variety which is used, for example, for the great sweet wines of Bordeaux, like Sauternes, for example. But people now tend to prefer wines which have more aromas on the nose, more acidity on the palate. And whereas originally, Chateau de Borde used to do very well when it had its majority of Semillon instead of Sauvignon, do very well with countries which like very round, soft wines, such as Japan, for example. They didn't like the aggressivity, so to say, the acidity of the Sauvignon. But, you know, we have, this is one of our duties, of course, to follow the trends from the markets and the taste of consumers. And nowadays, worldwide, the Sauvignon is a much more popular grape variety than Semillon.
I'm partial to Semillon. I always liked Semillon. The thing is that Semillon from Bordeaux has flavor, where the New World Semillon tends to be a little bit too tasteless. It's sort of like the Walmart tomatoes. They look beautiful, they're huge, but they don't taste much like anything, where the Semillon from Bordeaux tends to be a little bit more charming. It has its softness to it that is very appealing. And I think it balances the acidity of the Sauvignon Blanc. I have a question. Do you guys ever work with Sauvignon Gris for this level, or only Sauvignon Blanc?
Not for this one. Yeah.
Not for this wine. We'll talk about Sauvignon Gris during the last tasting, when we taste Cuvée Clémence. Then yes, it's a blend of Sauvignon Gris and Sauvignon Blanc. But for the Chateau de Borde white, it's Sauvignon Blanc.
Pure Sauvignon Blanc. Yeah, I really like the Sauvignon Gris. I mean, it's very interesting. It's a little bit more charming, softer. But there's not a whole lot of it planted.
Yeah, we
have a question
for Roland. or Alison, do you ever adjust the percentages based on the harvest quality or availability, or do you just have a flavor profile that you're aiming? So would you make it 25 Semillon, 75 Sauvignon, if it give you the actual profile that you're working with?
Yeah, it's not a question of mathematics. So, you know, what we want is to have a consistent style. And so, yes, as you said, if, you know, this year it's got to be 75-25, then that's what we'll do. We do it for the palate more than for what's written on the back label.
Great.
It's always a majority of Sauvignon Blanc, and they add percentage of Semillon depending on the years and just bring this roundness and this little maybe like honeysuckle type of aroma. But also, otherwise it's just dominant Sauvignon Blanc for this crispness and freshness.
Is it Sauvignon Blanc you source it in southern, in the southern side, or more toward the northern side of Bordeaux, on the west bank, east bank? Where do you source it?
No, it's mainly from the Entre-deux-Mers region, which is where most of the white wines of Bordeaux come. But we also buy some in the northern part of the département, like in the Blaye area, for example, which also produces interesting Sauvignon. So, but again, what we try to do with this wine, because it's one of our brands, so we buy wines from different producers and we blend them to have a consistent style. So, you know, we are not married with anyone, even though we try as much as possible to work every year with the same growers. You know, whenever one hasn't produced satisfying quality or whatever, we don't have to work with him, but we try to keep the same style as much as possible.
This is getting lovely. As it warms up to room temperature a little bit, it's just so aromatic, so pure.
And we have another question.
I'm enjoying it.
What is the source of the minerality?
Sorry?
What the minerality in the wine, what causes that?
Well, it's got to do with the grape variety. You have partly with the grape variety, but also with the soil and the subsoil, which produces, which brings, because of course, when we talk about the terroir, it's under this concept of terroir, we put different things, which are the soil and the subsoil, the climate, the work of man, of course, and all these produces a certain style. And depending on the region, you have more or less minerality. You have in the Sauvignon, for example, the Sauvignons from the Loire are even more mineral than what we get in Bordeaux. So it's got to do with the subsoil as well, which is bringing, whether it's red, white, rosé wines, has a big importance in the end result and the character of the wine.
Great. Well, I think I'm ready to move on to red if everybody else is. The next one is the Chateau de Sadran. I can actually, on the tech sheet here, there's a mini map. So that's actually where the property is located. In the edge of the left bank. And so if you all would like to talk about that.
So yeah, Chateau de Sadran, we have a vineyard which is located in the village of Paillet, which is near Langoiran, if anybody has heard about this small town. But as you can see on the map, it's located on the right bank of the Garonne River, so south of Bordeaux. And it's a very beautiful region with very hilly vineyards. Usually, for example, in this vineyard is on slopes facing the river and facing the south. So it's a very beautiful area because of the landscapes and also because of the architecture. You find a lot of very beautiful chateaus and buildings in general in this part of the Bordeaux vineyard. So in this village of Paillet, We have Chateau de Paillet, which is actually our chateau, as the name of the village. And Sadran is a part of Chateau de Paillet. And altogether, the vineyard is about 40 hectares. And it's planted with a blend of mainly Merlot, as Alison was saying earlier, 65% Merlot, 25% Cabernet Sauvignon, and 10% Cabernet Franc. My father and my uncle bought this vineyard at the end of the 60s. And when they bought it, it was in very bad condition. Everything, the vineyards, the buildings, there were fruit trees growing among the vines and so on. So there was a lot of work to do. And we have gradually completely restored, replanted this vineyard. And we are finishing now. We have just replanted 2 hectares with unusual grape varieties for Bordeaux, namely Syrah. Syrah is not a grape variety which is allowed in the AOC wines of Bordeaux. We hope that maybe in the course of years it's going to change, because we have, like everybody else, the problem of the climate change and the temperatures rising. So, for example, the Merlot, which has been the most popular grape variety in Bordeaux for many, many decades, is now becoming a bit of a problem because of the heat, because of the early and long summers we have. We get too much sun, and the degree of the Merlot can go very high. For example, now we have some, not in our vineyard, but we've seen some Merlot in some of the vineyards we work with, which have an alcohol potential of almost 16 degrees, which is of course much too high. So this is why we are trying to work on the blend. And even though it's not allowed to produce Cadillac Côte de Bordeaux, which is the AOC for this wine, we are going to produce, what we call in French VSCG, so non-AOC wines. But we believe in the future of Syrah in Bordeaux, and we hope this is going to work well. So.
Wow. Syrah in Bordeaux, interesting.
Yeah.
Is because it does so well in Rhone, and the climate is similar.
Yeah, well, because of the changes in the climate, we have to find other grape varieties, and we're trying. We're not the only ones, of course, in Bordeaux, but I think that 2 hectares of Syrah, that's for the timing the largest area planted with Syrah in Bordeaux. So we hope it's going to work well.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, I mean, have you considered other clones of Merlot that are more resistant to the new climate that we have? So the reason I ask that, because there's a lot of Merlot being grown in the state of Washington here, and that area inland around Spokane down to Loudon is basically a desert, like being in the moon. And somehow these guys managed to make it work with that incredibly hot type of summer. So maybe it's a clone that they use that this might not be available in Europe.
So to be completely honest, I'm not a technician. I studied business, not enology or agronomy. So I couldn't tell you exactly. All I can say is that Bordeaux in general, like a lot of other regions, is working very hard on new clones, on new grape varieties, and there's a lot of experiments being done now. But we don't know for sure. So the only way is to try different things and see how it works.
But at the moment, there are many properties that actually, so for example, on the left bank, so the Médoc region, that will use a little less Merlot, add a bit more of Petit Verdot, which is a smaller grape, a bit more which deals better with the heat. And so Paillet, this year we planted Syrah, but we also added 2 hectares of Malbec, which actually already is in Bordeaux, and it's not from Argentina initially, but anyways, so it's just back in Bordeaux a little more. And we will be planting soon some Carmenère, also a grape that was in Bordeaux in the past, but I'm a little distracted because my cat caught a mouse, so I run away, but it's like really disturbing. Great.
I guess they don't have BB guns in France.
I may just be back in a second, though.
At any rate, very interesting. So this is also labeled Chateau Paillet Quancard. Is it the same?
So it's not exactly the same. I mean, the vineyard, as I explained, is called Chateau de Paillet because the village is the chateau of the village. But we have 2 parts in that vineyard. One is sold under the name Chateau de Paillet, and the other one is sold under the name Chateau de Sadran. So it's different parcelles, as we say in French, different pieces of vineyard, which go one into Paillet and the rest into Sadran. And then we have a third label, which is called Chateau des Lannes, which is the secondary quality, which we don't want to put under the labels of Chateau de Paillet and Chateau de Sadran.
Yeah, I mean, the Chateau de Sadran is very interesting, coming from the same, property, but different vineyards. Because I really like this a little bit better than Chateau Paillet. The Paillet Quancard. Also, the other interesting aspect, the way I found this is I was looking through your French website because the English website doesn't have these labels, and that's because it's not in your US price list or anything. So it's like, well, what's that all about? And I asked for a sample, and I was really impressed by it. But you never exported to the US, the Sadran, have you?
Well, the thing to be completely clear about this, what we've done in France, and that's only for France, is we split our range between supermarkets and traditional trade, meaning by that restaurants and specialty shops and anything which is not supermarkets, because in France, it's true in other places as well, the restaurants and the cavistes, so the specialty shops, do not like to sell the same wines as supermarkets. So Sadran mainly sold in France and very little in other countries. So you are one of the exceptions. And I don't know, maybe Alison can tell us if we sell Sadran in other states, but I don't think we sell a lot of it.
It's all in North Carolina, all exclusive to Miguel. And it's actually a small, I don't know if you mentioned it, it's a small production. It's about 110,000 bottles, which is not that much since, like you said, it's mostly France. And I don't know if you mentioned
I enjoyed it quite a bit because I remember the Paillet is probably wine that required a little more aging to be as open. So it was a little bit more austere always at the beginning, but this one is just delightful. It's smooth, currants, plum, even a little hint of cocoa. The tannins are very, very fine, perfect balance. It is simply delicious and really good value. This is a wine that we probably can put away for 5 to 10 years. But that's kind of a personal thing. You know, people have different preferences for aging wine, but this is absolutely delicious.
Yeah, and it's also, sorry, go ahead.
No, after you, Alison.
No, just said that the vintage really helps. So it's the 2016, if you notice.
2016.
It was a really nice vintage in Bordeaux, just perfect conditions, nice summer, the good amount of rain. Yeah, it was a very good year. So yeah, go ahead, Roland.
No, I was just going to say that, as you said, Miguel, this wine can be drunk younger than Chateau de Paillet because since we sell it to supermarkets in France, it's usually people buy the bottle, come home and drink it. Whereas with the cavists and the restaurants, very often they tend to have slightly older wines. So the vinification is done differently for the two wines, and Paillet needs a bit more time. It's partly aged in old barrels, whereas Chateau de Sadran is aged in vats. So that makes two different styles of wine. But, we have customers for both. But I would say if you prefer the purity of the fruit and so on, so probably Sadran is a better choice than Paillet.
Yeah, I like how soft the tannins are, and when it is still degrees, you can drink a glass of red wine and it doesn't. It's still refreshing.
How open it is. Yeah.
It's harder.
And although it only has 10% Cab Franc, I mean, you can tell from the nose and the palate and the finish. You see, it's got the trace that is Cabernet Franc all the way. I like Cabernet Franc over Cabernet Sauvignon, personally. But something like this, I mean, it's easy to drink, very soft. You can have it with just about anything. Meats, fish, if you grill the fish, but with meats. Definitely, you can do roast with it. You also can go with soft cheeses as well, or hard cheeses, pasta. If you can do, some bolognese or napolitana, with things with a red sauce will go fantastic. Meatloaf, pizza. This is perfect with meatloaf or pizza. It's uncomplicated, easy to drink. A lot of fruit to it, all this nice berry, plum, and even a little bit of cinnamon in the finish. That spice from the Cab Franc. It's simply delicious. I mean, it's a really nice, affordable Bordeaux.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't say it better.
Perfect everyday wine. Yeah.
I couldn't say it at all in French. So you have an advantage over me. It's absolutely lovely.
So we've got about 10 minutes left. Do any of the people watching have any questions about the red that we just drank, or just in general? Just go ahead and type them in the chat, and then we will answer them.
And so while people maybe type something, just also an update on the vineyard. So we started harvesting the Merlot today for the 2020 vintage, and we'll be doing that for a few days still. And so like Roland said at the beginning, so the main estate is Chateau de Quancard, and so Sadran comes from a few plots, specific plots from that vineyard, which are on the hills of Sadran, hence the name of the chateau. And so the entire vineyard is slowly transitioning to organic. So it will be a few will be organic starting in 2020. We will expand it to other plots, including Sadran, in the long term. Just we want to see how it works, because organic in Bordeaux.
Is the price going up when it becomes organic?
What do you say?
Is the price going to go up when it becomes organic?
100%, much more. Well, at least
here in the US, and the minute they put organic, triple the price. It's like,
but we see,
yields go down.
The climate change adapted to Trump's tariffs, because now all the wines being at 16%, just kidding, above 14%, you see, you won't be paying any taxes on the wines from Bordeaux in the future.
Yes, hopefully. So one of the questions was, there's a comment mentioning differences of tannin levels between Cabernet Sauv and Cabernet Franc. Is it a true difference, or is it how the producer blends it, or time of harvest, or is it just what the grapes do?
Well, it has to do with the thickness of the skin. And how, again, as Zach mentioned, when is it harvested or not. If you, any red grape, not just Cab Franc and Cab Sauvignon, if you harvest with a really thick skin, you had a dry year and you had low pulp to skin ratio, you will end up with more tannics regardless. With Cabernet Franc, you have a little bit thicker skin, and that's where your phenolic, your tannin comes from, usually. And it depends also how the winemaker treats the wine. what type of yeast he uses, what type of oak aging, the period of maceration prior to fermentation, and so on. It's all about the technique. What I like about Cabernet Franc is just how pure it is in its character. Where, you know, look, Cabernet Sauvignon, everybody loves here in the U.S. Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's a hybrid. You know, they call it noble grape. I don't know what's so noble about a hybrid. And it has great things about it, but the purity of the grape itself is in Cabernet Franc. And, you know, it tends to be a little bit heavier. And it can be, the thing with Cabernet Franc, you could have a lot of vegetable qualities to it if harvested green. Again, we go back to the green harvest part. And you have to be careful. You have to do the right thing in the vineyard to be able to produce a beautiful Cab Franc, especially in the southern area of Bordeaux, you know, around Graves, Pessac-Logan, Cadillac, and so on. They make wonderful. The Cabernet Franc is absolutely fantastic. And personally, I think it's way better than the Cab Franc from Loire Valley. It's a little bit softer, it's more elegant. Where the Loire Valley Cab Franc tends to be a little bit, I don't know, so unpolished, and it's not my favorite thing, Loire Valley Cab Franc. Did that answer your question, whomever?
I believe so. And for Alison and Roland, are there any kind of specific French cheeses that you would pair with this wine?
Morbier.
I love Morbier. You would pair Morbier with anything, Miguel.
Yeah. I'll put it with peanut butter and the banana.
That's a very difficult question to answer because, as you may know, we have so many different cheeses in France. We had the former president of France who used to say, how can you rule a country which has more cheeses than days in a year? So we have such a large choice that it's difficult to tell you. But, you know, it goes well, for example, to remain on the classic French cheeses that you may know. Camembert, for example, you know, as long as it's not too strong. That would go well with this wine, or you know, harder cheeses such as, for example, Comté. I mean, you don't want something too strong. That's why I thought, Miguel, you said Morbier, which is definitely something a bit strong. So
burn your mouth.
Yeah. So something, you know, not too strong. It can be soft, as I think we see on the back label, but it can be harder cheeses.
I think this will go great with Roquefort.
Might be a little intense, like
if you put a generous portion, yeah, it's gonna be difficult. But if you put just a little bit and a little bit of bread, you know, that baguette or something.
Well, one thing,
of jambon.
One thing one always has to remember, and that's why it's difficult to give advices, is that it's a very wine tasting is a very personal thing. So
absolutely,
you know, the fact that we were talking earlier about the comparison between Chateau de Paillet and Chateau de Sadran. Miguel, you prefer Chateau de Sadran. I prefer Chateau de Paillet. It doesn't mean you're right and I'm wrong, or the opposite.
Right.
So it's a very personal thing. And even when it comes to matching food with wine, you know, some people will say, well, for us in Bordeaux, we tend to consider that with Roquefort, it's better to drink sweet white wines, for example.
I would do Sauternes all along with Roquefort.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Sauterne.
You know, if anyone is happy with, you know, drinking one of wines with anything, it's fine. I remember the first time I came to the US, I was 15 years old. It was my first visit to the country. I brought with me a few, it's saying that my internet connection is unstable, so I don't know if it affects what you hear, but so I brought some very good bottles with me, and the family immediately put those bottles, which were very good red wines, in the fridge. I was a bit horrified, but you know, they enjoyed it like that, so it's fine. I remember also one of the big criticisms with the Chinese consumers at the beginning was that they were mixing our Bordeaux red wines, and sometimes very expensive wines, with Coke or Sprite or whatever. So that was a bit of a nightmare for a lot of people, but I said, you know, if that's how they come to wine, that's okay. And indeed, in the course of years, their habits, their bad habits, we would say, have changed. They don't put Coke or anything else in our wines, and they drink the wines by themselves. So it's an education, and I will never say that somebody's wrong drinking this wine with that food, because if he's happy with it, that's fine. And in the course of time, when people discover more about food and about wine and about food pairing, then, you know, they get more sophisticated, maybe a bit more adventurous, and that's fine too.
And I have a question that came out to be private, so I don't think you can see it. So it comes from Wines Day saying, because the tannins are soft and it's a red wine, what season do French typically drink this wine? Now, whenever you want. I guess it's kind of the same thing you said, Roland, it's whenever you want to drink it. I guess typically the French, like anyone, I guess, in the summer prefers drinking some rosé and some fresh whites, but we actually drink reds all over year round. And this one, although it has some structure and tannins, I think is not too overwhelming, or it's not something you would just have for Christmas. It's just really the perfect everyday wine from Bordeaux with typical aromas and structure. So
yeah.
But in terms of seasons, again, it's like with food. Usually during the winter, you tend to eat heavier food than you do in the summer when you prefer salads and lighter type of food.
Very good point,
One
yes.
is exactly the same. So during the summer, you prefer lighter wines. So this could be a good summer wine if you prefer to drink red, whereas you would go to something more tannic with more wood aging if you drink it in the winter. So Chateau de Sadran is good for this time of the year.
Question, Roland, you may not know this, since this is a little bit of a technical question. Do you guys use micro-oxygenation in your process in your chateaus?
Yes, we do.
You do?
Yeah, we do on some of the wines when we want to, you know, work on the fruitiness and the. Yes, we do.
Yeah, because I noticed a little bit of a change from, you know, back in the early 90s. They were quite austere wines, and they have become a little bit more enjoyable early on, a little bit more better. The other question I had, and I forgot because I'm old. Go ahead. Somebody asked a question. I forgot what was the second question. Anybody?
good.
I think we're good.
Awesome. Well, looks like we spent about an hour doing this from our turn. You was fantastic.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Abby, for attending, and everybody for attending. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to have another one on September 30th.
Yep.
Same U.S. time, 5:30 p.m. and, you know, 11:30 in Bordeaux. Next time it's going to be Zach, Alison, and Olivier, which is actually a up-and-coming winemaker at Cheval Quancard.
Yep.
Maybe Roland will join us too.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's free. You can't argue about free.
It wasn't planned like that, but I'm going to join you anyway for the last tasting, which is, I think, on the 14th of October, if I remember correctly.
With your sister.
So I'll be happy to meet you again on this occasion. I hope you've enjoyed this tasting this evening, and that you will be there again for the next one and for the next one. So I cannot promise that I will be on the 30th, but I'll definitely be with you on the 14th of October.
And we're looking forward. I know you're going to be on the last one with Sophie discussing the wines. But anyway, thank you very much, Roland. Thank you very much, Alison and Zach, for, you know, conducting a wonderful, wonderful tasting. I hope people enjoyed it, and we look forward to the very next one.
Yep, I agree with everything. All right, thank you very much.
All the same.
Everybody take care, and we'll hopefully see you next time.
Yep.
Bonne nuit.
Thank you, everyone. Bonne nuit. Yes,
Thank you
time to
very
go to
much.
bed.
Bonne nuit.
Bye-bye.
Bye.